Hi, I'm Sarah.
I'm Ella.
I'm Sara.
Hi, I'm Frannie.
Hi, I'm Charlotte.
And today we're talking about Sarah Everard and her murder, basically. I think this sort of, as a topic, has fueled a lot of us. For me personally, it has been the pinnacle of my feminism. It's really just made me reach boiling point. I'm so angry, so disappointed, and I have spent hours crying about this and about the stories that are now coming out. For me personally, I feel passionately that we can't let her death be done in vain. Like, we need to make something of this. We need to create a change. And at first, when I thought about it, I was like, I'm only one person. What can I do? But you know what? If everyone thought like that, nothing would get done. So we need to work together, and we need to genuinely try our best to make something of this.
And we have this channel now to give everyone a voice and like make it more heard.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So, you know, I just feel so passionately about this. I'm sure I could say the same for the rest of you guys on this video and those that aren't on the video. Just some background information. If you haven't heard it, I think you're living under a rock. But Sarah was murdered on the 3rd of March, 2021 in South London. She was 33 years old, and she was murdered by an off-duty police officer. As if murder isn't bad enough when it's done by someone we're meant to trust and, you know, feel safe around, I think just blows it completely out of the park on how bad it is. I think Ella has a video to show us, just to give you guys a bit of information about the vigil that occurred on the 13th of March. There were quite a few different vigils actually I'd seen. There was one in Trafalgar Square, one in Clapham Common, quite a few other couple ones, but yeah, we'll show this one and how it kind of got out of control.
Throughout the day on Saturday, small groups of people arrived to pay their respects on Clapham Common, near the bandstand, close to the spot where Sarah Everard was last seen. So how did this quiet, dignified spectacle descend into this? We've analysed video footage from that afternoon and evening, giving insight into some of the key moments. By 4 o'clock, we see the first signs that numbers are swelling here, with around 200 people gathered near the bandstand. Around 5:30, and a steady stream of people are now heading here. It's clear that although the original vigil was cancelled, many are determined to be here. A police liaison officer makes a direct appeal to people to leave.
Nobody here is socially distanced. We're in the middle of a pandemic. And we're asking people to go home.
Few here appear to be listening. From 6:30, another potentially pivotal moment as police commanders decide to move more officers up onto the bandstand. The atmosphere has shifted. Things are much more tense.
This is no longer a vigil. Too many people in one place. Don't you agree?
Just after 7:20, another key moment in our sequence of events as police take the decision to start removing people from the front of the bandstand, including Patsy Stevenson. It's at this point that the tensions here spill over into scuffles and arrests.
I think that's enough information from that video.
I also read somewhere that obviously they were forcibly arresting attendees, but that the police also, in order to police and do what they were doing, they were walking over flowers that were laid by the attendees, which only further angered those that were there. And there's been a load of backlash, not only just about the murder, but obviously the vigil and sort of everything that's happened since. It's been a massive spiral of events because of the one singular murder. A lot of things that were I seen on social media was like a suggestion for a female curfew for women not to be allowed out after dark, which just boiled my blood a little bit further, because it is just another way of controlling women, suppressing women, not letting men take the blame. What I want to add to that though is I watched a video I cannot remember the guy's name, but we'll have to add it into the description. But he came on to the BBC and he spoke about male violence against women. And he said that it's so easy. I got so annoyed by the not all men movement that came after the murder. Because I just thought it's not about you as a person and whether or not you personally display the traits that rapists and murderers or, you know, misogynists or people that are violent against women display. What the issue is that there's not enough of a conversation man to man about these things. And he said it's so easy to say not all men, but what is so much harder is to ignore the fact that 90% of violent cases towards women are, or violent crimes are done by men. I think it was something like 89% of crimes against another person are done by men, and something like 96% of sexual crimes are done by men. Obviously, those are the ones that are like reported and everything, but it's so hard to ignore those statistics when they're so high. And then I've seen a video in the House of Commons of a lady suggesting a male curfew.
I would argue that at the next opportunity for any bill that's appropriate, I might actually put in an amendment to create a curfew for men on the streets after 6 p.m, which I feel would make women a lot safer.
And I will say, I am in 100% support of it. Said that to my boyfriend and he actually agreed with me, which was actually really nice to hear. But I'd like to know you guys' opinions on all of that.
Having a male curfew, I'm against it because first of all, it pushed the idea that women just get arrested at night if they by themselves at night, which is not true. This could happen during the day. And for me, putting a male curfew is still a way to ignore the real problem. Ignore the real problem. It's a way to say, well, all right, it's first not going to be respected, but then it's also, no, the problem is not that. The problem is that, okay, male curfew, but woman still going to get, if a woman is from domestic violence, she's still going to get, have violence at home. So I don't think the problem is really not a problem of time. And that's something that even we women have to deconstruct in our own minds. By myself, maybe at that time, or it's late for me. And having a curfew, like I said, would just push this idea like, all right, before 6 p.m, nothing will happen to you. After that, something could happen to you because it could happen in the middle of the day. And it's still free countries. You should be able, man or woman, to go out no matter what time. The problem is not when you're out, it's what you do when you're out.
Definitely, I agree with that. I also think that in the kind of wave of feminism, it's all about equality and making men step down. I personally don't know how I feel about that, but I think if you kind of negatively, then it will. If we say, oh, men have to go in at 6 o'clock, it will ultimately turn to, oh, women doing this and women doing that and women changing everything, which, yeah, we are all here to change things. But like Sarah said, it's about an attitude and education as opposed to a restriction.
No, I agree with the sort of education thing. That's like that. I only watched the video where it's like they're considering introducing a male curfew. Say I agree with it. I mean, alongside an education, I wouldn't want it like permanent. I'd want it basically until the community, the society, the government can agree on a way to move forward from this. Because, and Sarah, you're very right in saying that things happen at any time, but there is also like it kind of helps with one side of the issue, the nighttime side of things. And I want fixes for all of them, but we can only really do change one step at a time. We're not going to be able to fix everything at once. But I think the important thing is that it's about letting a man take a responsibility. Not just a man, like men in general. Like we do need them to take responsibility. And I know there are some lovely men out there that would never even consider, a lot of my friends have said that they are really conscious of making a girl feel uncomfortable. That's their worst nightmare. They don't want that. But what they are missing is having those, they don't mind having that conversation with me as a girl, but they don't have the confidence and the availability to have that conversation with their male friends. There's not enough of this dialect between men on how they should behave. I know people that have friends that, and they know, as in like boys that have male friends, and they know their male friends treat girls inappropriately and don't feel comfortable saying it. And that is what needs to change. And I do feel like kind of like policing men a bit more with a little bit of, not necessarily 6 p.m, whatever, just maybe from like 11 o'clock at night till 4 o'clock in the morning, maybe restricting male movement outside, just to make them realize like, if we don't
feel like that would also, sorry, don't you think that also having this, because we have to also take into consideration that men have been like unconsciously in their mind, they know, you know, girls, we're more used to like, if there's a coffee, we will be mad and stuff, but we're more used to like things being put on us, so we will be mad, we will react. But men, they're really not used to that. So I feel like if we do that, it would also like, there will be even maybe more violence toward women, because men's gonna be so frustrated. Not an excuse at all.
No, but that is true. That is a very good point.
Following your point, Sarah L, which is that men have, again with the quotation marks, because it's not all men, but the men that have started the not all men hashtag are the problematic men that would start to really get involved with the whole curfew thing. I disagree with it. I think if all men were compliant and kind and nice, which they obviously aren't because we have this problem in the first place, then they would be like, oh, I see how that's a problem. Okay, I'll give up my nights and my early morning runs if it makes the women feel safer in my town or in my country. But that's not how it is. And the men that started the not all men hashtag are the ones that are going to be like, absolutely fucking not. You cannot keep the men at home for a curfew when they have no criminal record or no sexual abuse charges or are not on a sex offenders list or anything like that. I think it's a real step backwards. It's definitely in a different direction, but it's a step backwards because you are you're herding a group of people into a category. And it's true, not all men are abusers. That is true.
Well, the men that aren't all the men know it doesn't apply to them, don't they?
Okay, I was just saying, you can't say like, oh, okay, right, all the rapists, you stay home at 11 o'clock and we'll all be all right after that. No, like, it's not going to happen. I don't think restricting people will, it's going to take time. And unfortunately, that is the way things work nowadays.
It's my system.
You need to build it into the way they learn. I definitely think with our generation that children now are being taught so many invaluable skills and the right way to learn, and our generation has the power to install that in the next. And yeah, we might not see it in our lifetime, which is horrendous, and I'm hoping we do, but also the changes that we're making for the next generations of girls, boys, everybody, everyone, is amazing. And we do need to focus on the fact that at least something is being said. I know it's been overdue, but now is the time for social change. And if we'll be like activists within that, then what can happen is amazing. And we need to focus on that positive instead of, oh, let's just restrict people. No, I don't think restricting somebody's never going to help. You need to encourage and grow and learn. And that's the only way we'll ever step forward together, as opposed to what someone leaving and someone.
Because that's it. We need to be together in this, to like move all together, and maybe putting like this curfew idea with even more creative separation between men and women. And then, you know, a lot of men are like, feminism is not about equality anymore. It's about women having more rights than men. It's not fair, blah, blah, blah. Then here, if men come like, well, I have a curfew, you don't. Oh, yeah.
I suppose that's true. Anymore. It's like, I think maybe I'm looking from too much of a rose-tinted glasses here. Like, I expect that men will be like, they will accept it and be like, oh, it's so true, you know, like that will really help it just for a little while. But you're right, there is that it will
never happen. They'll never just accept
it. Won't. And it is it's a real shame. And Sarah, you made a very good point. Oh, sorry.
I imagine you coming to my house and knocking on my door after all the men are inside after curfew and being like, hey, do you want to take a walk in the dark and we just have like a party in the street after midnight?
Yeah,
it'd be amazing.
I do think the point of separating people is not going to help though, because think about it in the sense of like, you know, back in time in this country and in America, when people who were black and people who were white were separated, that caused a bigger problem. Separating men and women will cause a bigger uproar and will hinder the movement of anything. Like, I do think a curfew is just a ridiculous notion.
I mean, I do. I agree with that. Curfews, I think, it seems like the extreme. I just do feel like we need an extreme, because otherwise nothing's going to happen. But I would say, you're saying about how, you know, we shouldn't divide men and women, but there is already this divide. And Sarah made a very good point that, you know, if the curfew was put on women, there wouldn't be so much of a protest against it, because women have always had these sort of things suppressing them and controlling them. There is a difference between men and women. And yes, we want them to be equal, but I strongly believe, and I, you know, obviously you guys are welcome to disagree with me, but I happily will listen, that I really do believe that the only way we're going to move forward is with education and all the rest of that. And it does take time, but I just feel like we need men on our side.
By putting a curfew, we won't have them by our side. We already don't, but some of them are our side. But imagine a man, even though normally if they well educated, they shouldn't be like this, but doing effort speaking to his male friends and like doing everything's right, and then he gets put a curfew, he's gonna be like, well, that's not fair on me. Why?
Yeah.
You know? So I feel like and was very interesting. I always point out people, I don't know if it's the same place on my screen that Charlotte did, but with segregation, that was the same thing.
Yeah.
People were separated, then they didn't get to know each other. And then how did it end? It just like, even when segregation ended, it was just like, I don't know how to talk to a white person. I don't know how to talk to a black person. And with curfew, it's just going to create even more of a separation with us. I'm even scared that it would give men even more power if we create this.
It would go even deeper, wouldn't it?
It will go, because for the moment, the thing is, they don't do anything, right? They don't like help us. But if we do this, they're really gonna come against us, and we're really gonna have like an anti-feminism movement.
Yeah.
Well, I think feminists will just be used as a scapegoat if that happens. They'll just go, oh, it's all the feminists' fault. I would like to play devil's advocate here. I would like to just put something in for you to discuss. I was reading earlier, one of Sarah's, as in Sara, the lady who was unfortunately murdered, one of her friends has actually come out and said her abduction and murder is not, in my opinion, a symptom of a sexist, dangerous society, and feels that we cannot blame men, because obviously it's not necessarily coming out on the side of the not all men movement, but we can't necessarily blame the actions of one individual on a whole sex or gender. I mean, I do feel that this has presented an opportunity for us to be like, you know, this isn't okay. This is something that happens often. But I do kind of get the side that it was an individual's choice, if you know what I mean.
But
yeah, I do. Like, I wouldn't blame my male friends for what happened. Like, I'm not like, you didn't do it, so I can't say you're a murderer, whatever. I can't hold them. Yeah, I can't hold them responsible.
So moving on from the kind of conversation of the curfew and whether that's a good or a bad idea, because I feel like we've all spoken how we feel about that, and we can put that to bed now. I put on my story, I'm going to find it because I won't be able to remember it word for word, and it was really well said.
Just to say, while you're finding that, Ella, I think the amount of things that have been shared on social media and the support that I have seen a lot of my male friends actually have spoken out, and every single person on my story who has posted anything, reshared anything, I messaged and said, like, thank you, like, this is amazing. And I think it's important that we reaffirm that. That's a big thing too.
Yeah,
definitely. I agree with that.
So what it was, I saw one of my male friends from university posted this. If I am friends with your abuser, DM me and that will change. I see you, I hear you, I believe you, and your story matters. And then there's another one saying, if I'm following your abuser, DM me and I will unfollow them. I support you. And the idea was that she made this post to give people the opportunity to just easily put it on their story, and it opens that conversation from someone that you may have known like 3 years ago to message them and be like, hey, yeah, remember that one class that we were in together? Well, your friend with the black hair, he was like da 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 da, and that person now has given you empowered you to message them to say that person did something wrong by me, and maybe they could then make a change. And it opens those conversations, and it opens the opportunity. And I'm really, really happy that I posted that, because I'm not a guy, and no one's messaged me saying that I was friends with an abuser. But since I posted it, I'm not saying it's because of me, this thing has been going around, but I have seen maybe like 18 to 20 other people that I follow post it on their stories. I think it's such a great, I mean, it shouldn't have taken someone to have died by a police officer, by the hands of a police officer, for this to happen. Just like the Black Lives Matter movement shouldn't have started because of one or two very poignant murders. But it's happening. So let's seize the opportunity and open the conversation.
Yeah.
Start talking about the injustice and about people that don't realize they are abusing the power by being men or being white or being in the police or whatever it is. I'm just really, really glad that the movement has sort of taken off.
Yeah, I feel like if you, like you said, if you're educated enough, you know that when people say like men, it's also to answer what Charlotte said, that when you shouldn't get offended, like you said, like your friends are like, well, oh, I've seen all this on social media, but I haven't done all this. It's more about like the whole like general, also a lot about woman experience, because like we said, we all Sarah, but we did it home. I remember the day where this story with Sarah happened. I was on Snapchat and I was watching my memories, and my memory of that day was me talking, and I was like, oh, I feel like a man. It was like 1 year ago. I feel like a man is following me right now, so I'm gonna go hide in a shop because I get scared. So it's really crazy how like we've all. I feel like the reason why it was such a big movement is because she was young, you know. It didn't really get out of England because I didn't saw my Belgian friends speaking about it, for example. But here, it's just that in this country, it made a huge impact because we were really all like, this could have been me. Yeah. This literally could have been me. We all thought about a day where we're like, oh yeah, we all know what Sarah, maybe that Sarah saw that somebody was following her. We all know like how she felt, and I feel like that's why it became such a lot of empathy. And that if you like, I was saying for what you said, like being a white, being a police officer, being like a man, or even I would say being straight, you should like, people should say something, and you should not get offended when my friends talk about like how straight people can have oppression on the LGBTQ plus community. I will never get offended because I know that maybe I do things without realizing it, and I think it's more about listening and hearing what people say than say, well, I'm not part of the problem. I'm not like this. I'm different from all those other people that oppress you. It's really like you have to realize that you have been made to oppress them without realizing it. So I think it's more about that people have to focus on more than their own individual that hasn't done anything. It's more about, okay, but how do I work this out in the society?
You broke down every point there, and that was really, really well said. And I think the reason that her death has sparked so much anger and started this massive conversation literally globally was because she was just, yes, she was a woman walking alone and she got attacked and murdered. That has happened before, but it was by a police officer. And also, I think that what happened at the memorial and the photos that went viral of, 3 men in police uniforms holding down one girl to arrest her. I think, unfortunately, the media controls a lot of the conversation. But, I'm kind of glad that it went viral. I mean, I know that 2 or 3 women got arrested at that vigil, the video that we just saw. But, it's just a shame that had to happen for this conversation to start.
I want to add, the hashtag she was only walking home or she was just walking home, I've spent pretty much the last week or so checking that on Twitter every day, reading people's stories, because I think this is a really positive thing that's come of this, is enabling other women to talk about their experiences. And like you say, the saying "I am Sarah," that's also another hashtag that I find really inspiring. And I mean, I've been sat crying reading the stories, but there's one that's really stuck with me, and I actually screenshotted the whole thing, so if you don't mind I might read it, because she literally says that the only reason that she didn't end up like Sarah was just sheer luck, and you'll understand what she means when I read
and when
it.
it relies on luck, that's when things need to change.
Exactly. This one's an actual experience that I read, and I was literally just it literally shows how easy it is to become a Sarah and have yourself in a Sarah situation. The only thing more bitter than the cold weather on the evening of Thursday, the 5th of February 2015, was me at my decision to, as always, leave my university assignments to the last minute. I had to shut myself away in King's College London, Guy's Campus Library, because my dedication to procrastination was unwavering despite having 2 projects due to be submitted by Turnitin by 11:59 that night. Did you order a cab? Without looking up from my phone, which I was using to let my friend know of my whereabouts, like I had drilled into me since childhood, I said they must be looking for someone else and continued walking. The voice belonged to the driver of a car who slowly drove alongside me as I walked. Are you sure? I was called here to pick someone up. I thought it might be you. He continued to probe me as if I'd somehow called and waited for a cab, only to suddenly forget I'd done so the moment it arrived. And then it dawned on me that perhaps he assumed that I, a young person walking outside past midnight, was tipsy and headed home after a few drinks. I assured him that I was very much certain I had not called a cab, and I did not live far away, assuming that that would be the end of it. I didn't realize the true implication of his assumption that I was drunk or otherwise vulnerable young woman until he said, "Come on, I can give you a lift home." Alarm bells rung in my head. Why would a cab driver drive here for a paying customer and then ditch them for a non-paying randomer? I tried to ignore his car, still silently cruising alongside me for that street and the next until the time came I had to cross the road and cross his car. He stopped his car as I calmly and slowly turned to cross. Without saying a word, he quickly jumped out of the car and opened the back door on the driver's side with his right hand while the other side of his body turned towards me. At this point, the way around the back of his car was the shortest route across the road. But he was also closer to the back of his car, so I didn't know which direction to run. I couldn't calculate the safest route, and in those crucial seconds, and gambled on the shorter route, running around the back of his car, hoping that him opening the back door would buy me a moment's head start. As I ran across the road, the fingertips of his left hand, the hand that was free and extended towards me, tugged at my jacket sleeve. He lost grip, but managed to grab me properly with his right hand this time and started to pull me towards him, trying to get me into his car. The only difference between me and Sarah Everard and the thousands of women who don't get media attention, whose stories disappear along with them, is sheer dumb fucking luck. And that's how she ends it, because she managed to get away, because she managed to pull, and she thinks it was the fabric her coat was made of that managed to, like, his hands to slip off her, but he was trying to push her into his car. And I read that and I just thought, like, it's so true. I'm sure each of us could come up with a story where luck is what saved us. You know, not the things that we've been taught as children, not the key in the hand. I've done that so many times, and that's not saved me from any of my situations I could bring up. Do you know what I mean?
My girlfriend recently gave me this pen knife. Do you think this would keep me safe?
I want to buy it. Like me, I'm gonna order pepper spray because it's just.
Gosh,
Right.
sorry, I just feel quite I don't think I've thought about it in enough detail at this point, but I'm just quite emotional about it. But you're saying about chance and luck, and an experience I've had. Again, I won't go into it because it's too triggering for some people, but that chance, that luck was someone walking in the room, and like just thinking back to that now, if that hadn't have happened, sorry, I've just had, you know what I mean? It's just like so interesting to talk about it, and like it is luck, like that could have been any of us. And sorry, gosh, I just really haven't got to this point yet. And I just think, wow, why should it be luck? Why should it be chance? People need to learn
They
how
need
to
to fuck
respect
their
others.
ideas up.
Yeah,
Honestly,
sorry.
I mean,
Quickly before I
And funny enough, it was a male that walked in. Had it have been a girl that walked in,
Yeah.
it'd been a different situation. But I was so thankful for that guy walking in the room at that time. And always for years I've gone, God, if it wasn't for him, I dread to think what would have happened, but never actually gone, no, what would have happened?
Yeah, mine's what would have happened if my neighbour hadn't looked out of his window because he wondered what the noise was.
God, it's just awful,
Like,
isn't it?
I think this is the thing, like when you actually realize And this is why the conversations need to occur. And
Yeah.
the conversations are triggering and they are upsetting. And Frannie, honestly, thank you for showing your emotion because it's so real. And I know that it's an emotion that a lot of us feel. And it gave me goosebumps seeing you get emotional because we can all relate. And I think that is the thing that this is what fuels my anger and fuels my passion because it's just, I just want to fix everything. I mean, I'm a natural fixer anyway. I always want everything perfect, but God, and we need something to come of this. And actually this links to the kind of final bit I wanted to say. It'll be fine. I'll just quickly read it. Over the past few days across various social media sites, I've seen women everywhere speaking out about their personal experiences with sexual harassment and assault. And I'm in absolute awe of those who have been brave enough to speak out, which by the way, I am too. But I've also seen some disgusting and derogatory remarks towards women for speaking out. Hashtags stating that not all men are perpetrators. People calling men who are supporting women soft or stupid. Until you've walked a mile in our shoes, experienced the things we've experienced, been taught the things we've been taught, had the conversations we've had, you don't get to comment on the severity of it. You don't get to speak out on the experiences of others. You weren't there, you didn't see it, you didn't hear, you didn't feel what we felt. Which is why it's so vile to degrade women and dismiss their claims without getting the full picture. It's always why didn't she, or why was she, or what was she wearing, never why did he. There comes a time when enough is enough, and yes, it should be the first time something like that happens, but it never is. 97% of women have experienced sexual harassment or assault. 97%. That's around 3.8 billion women in the world. 97% of that is just over 3.5 billion women. Now, if we were to ask men how many people they know that have committed a sexual offence, there would be barely any, which is kind of what I was saying earlier. It was not really a conversation or a dialogue between men. It is never the victim's fault. That goes for men as well as women. It's never about what they wore, where they were, the time of day, which is what Sara was saying, the route they took, the shoes they had on, whether they were on the phone or not. It's about rapists and offenders, predators and stalkers. If that person left their house knowing what they were about to do, regardless of which woman it was always going to happen. They don't differentiate between different types of clothing or whether you're wearing flats or heels. Imagine you have to alter the way you live your life on the chance that you might get picked up or attacked or murdered. Imagine having to let family members know where you are every time you go somewhere new, or hold your key between your fingers every time you leave the house. Imagine having to think twice about wearing your favorite outfit, being home before dark, walking in pairs everywhere, ringing somebody just to go to the shops alone, just so you can reduce the risk of being attacked. Imagine being told you should be escorted by a man or another adult to go out. Imagine being told to be careful for going out by yourself, or not being able to go for a walk by yourself without the fear of being preyed on. Imagine spending your teenage years fending off catcalls, derogatory comments, passes made against your will, being blackmailed and pressured, guilt-tripped and harassed. Imagine being 12 years old and sexually harassed for the first time, being silenced and told that saying something would make it worse. Imagine being 15 and being forced upon by somebody you thought you knew and having to live with the guilt of it and blaming yourself for thinking you let it happen, even though you said no and tried to fight it. Imagine being 17 and being filmed walking through town centre by a man you didn't know, walking next to you whilst wearing a t-shirt and jeans, and confronting him just to get spat on in return before he ran away. Imagine being brushed off when you report it. Imagine being 21 and having to constantly text your boyfriend because any contact with people you didn't know prompts a panic attack and leaves you feeling vulnerable. Because all of those things have happened to me, as I'm sure they have happened to other women. Don't sit there and say that women are overreacting, or that we're exaggerating our experiences, or that we're blaming all men for our experiences, or that we're blaming all men for what's happened, because we aren't doing any of those things. We were still prepared from a young age to go out into the world being careful and vigilant, being trained on how we leave the house alone, so only to follow every piece of advice and still have it happen to you. From the ages of 12 to 21, I have been harassed or assaulted every single year, at least once by a man I didn't know. That's 9 years of harassment that I couldn't control because I'd already followed advice given to me from the moment I grew a pair of boobs and started to go out alone. So tell me that we're still being dramatic. Try and tell us it isn't a big deal. Tell us we're a minority of women who have had these experiences, because 3.5 billion people is a lot of people to discredit.
I got quite emotional listening to that, actually, because as someone who, like, you know, categorically, I would say I haven't had a major experience, but when you start to think back and you look back in your past, like I've worked in pubs and there's been moments there, you know, house parties, there's moments there, clubs, moments there, and before you know it, you're like, actually, hang on, yeah, I'm in that 97%, and before you realize it, you stack up all these things, and I think just having those conversations can also make you aware. Like, one of my flatmates who's male asked, "Girls, is there anything, like, you know, has anything happened to you?" And the conversation was crazy, and they were so shocked, and I shocked myself as well, because like one friend would say something, and I go, "Oh my god, yeah, that happened to me as well." And
Yeah.
before you know it, you stack up this list of, like, in my head, I had like 2 things that were like a big deal in my life. Obviously, I don't really want to share too much, but that what like poignant that I think about when this conversation happens. But before you know it, I was like, and there's another one, and there's another one, and another one and it's, God, and like
It's
you said, from
overwhelming.
12 until 21 and further, from the moment you become sexualized, it's unescapable.
What hit me most out of that was how young she started it at 12. However, I don't know if anyone is in the same boat. I was an early developer, as a lot of people are. Like, I had a pretty sizable chest probably by the age of 10. And even then, you know, I was walking home, like, I think it was like non-uniform day at school or something, walking home, and, you know, a couple of men like beeping their horn. And not only is, you know, not only do women not need to be sexualized by all men, but that's sexualizing a child.
Yeah.
And I think that it is so innate at this point that often gets skimmed over.
Massively.
The fact that we, like, when a lot of this started, I feel like you can probably all relate, we were children, not even just like by a little bit, like properly children.
It's almost like by 16, by 18, you've learned how to deal with it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like, how weird's that you've learned how to deal with those things that should not even, well, it shouldn't happen to you at all, but yeah, from a child,
even more so.
This is making me so mad, is hearing you point out like things that are wrong. Oh, and then this is even more wrong, and then this is even more wrong. So there's sexualizing women, which shouldn't happen in the beginning, and then there's sexualizing a child, and then there's sexualizing a child who you know is a child because they're in uniform. It's like there are 3 tiers. We are asking for none of them to happen, but for the last one, it has to take someone to kidnap a child in uniform, rape them, and then kill them, and then people are talking. It's
but
like
stuff like that has happened. Stuff like that has happened. There have been kids that have been abducted. There is pedophilia pretty much everywhere in open sight if you are looking for it. And this is the thing that I mean, it's a completely different topic of conversation, but this is the thing I just get so irritated. I think this is why I'm so stark with my sort of opinions. I do kind of go to the extreme because I'm just like, I'm at this point, you know, I'm 21 years old and I'm already fed up.
From the start of that, I started to feel like a little bit like, ooh, because I don't know how to say this any plainer, any more boring, any more bland. It is true. Everything you have said, it is 100% true for me. And I'm just another girl. And I was thinking about the outfits thing, and I was like, yeah, double thinking about wearing my favorite outfit, double thinking about wearing a push-up bra, even if it makes me feel good, even if it's a bit cold outside and I want to make myself feel good. And I'm thinking, like, do I now dress the way I dress because I want to avoid dressing feminine? Because I don't dress feminine anymore. I used to, and now I kind of never.
Yeah, same.
Sometimes it's even like, should I wear heels in case I have to run? You know, which is crazy.
Yeah. And like I mean, I've touched on it in previous, like we did a gendered video clothing. Did I say that right? A gendered clothing video. There we go. Where I kind of touched on that, but like it made me think. And then there was something you rounded it up with. What was the kind of last few points you made, Sarah?
Tell us we're a minority of women who's had these experiences, because 3.5 billion people is a lot of people to discredit.
Yeah, I think the idea of talking to male friends and being like, oh yeah, you know, stuff has happened, and then someone says something and you're like, oh my God, wait, that's happened to me as well. Like, I cannot think of a simulation that we could put our guy best friend in that would make them feel the same way, because men have this innate toxic masculinity and kind of, oh, if a guy squares up to me, I'm going to square up to him.
Yeah, kind of like bravado type thing.
And I feel like it's also because it's so like in this society, I would say, normalized, that when you think about it, you're gonna think about like something big, but then you just think about small things, and then you realize that's true. It's not normal. Like it's not
And
normal
that's
that in the club
as
they just
well.
come behind you to dance on you, and you're like, no, and they keep doing it. All right, it's not normal, you know. And it's just like we it's so normal in a society that when you think, because you don't want, it's hard to think that you have been sexually assaulted, so you're just gonna think about like maybe bigger is not level, but you know what I mean, like something that was more violent, more in your face, where it can really be little things, and it's just when you speak with people that you realize. That's why I love, I don't know if you guys watch Sex Education, but in like the last episode, there's this episode where they all talk with Amy, and they just said, oh, I've been through this, and I love it because it wasn't like too triggering. It was like small things that all women can say. Oh yeah, and like you said, it's sad that it's when you talk to people that something you like, oh yeah, well maybe something has happened to me, which is not normal, and it's really sad.
What fuels my anger and fuels my passion, because it's just, I just want to fix everything. I mean, I'm a natural fixer anyway. I always want everything perfect, but God, and we need something to come of this. And actually this links to the kind of final bit I wanted to say and ask. There's two things actually. First thing was, obviously the government have reopened a survey about violence against women. I know some of us
just quickly I do need to go. I don't need to do that. I'm just going to love you and leave you just quickly.
Okay.
Frannie, if you ever need somebody to talk to, me and Sarah, our flat is a very safe space.
I really appreciate
Give one of us a message. Goodbye, lovely people.
But no, like there was obviously this government survey, which we will put the link in the description to that. But we all reacted saying that these questions were just really stupid.
I'll put a screenshot on the screen now. But I was really excited when Charlotte sent the message into the group chat, like, here's a survey. I was like, yes, cool, something I can do to like make a difference. And I read the first page and I was like, what is this fucking bullshit?
It's a load of crap.
It should not be a survey. But the fact that it is a survey shows how much change we have left to make.
What do we do? What will help? What would you suggest? Because that was actually a question within the survey. What would you do to help? Blah, 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 blah. Let's give some ideas. Now, mine would be the curfew, so I'm going to shut up and I'm going to open it to you guys. What can we do? What can be done by the government, by people in charge, by men, to make this a better situation?
I would say right from the get-go, education within schools from 10, 11 upwards. But all the same for all students, to understand what women have to go through, what men have to go through, all sides of every story, because it's important to understand, men are sexually assaulted as well, and it should be a blanket thing for everyone, and to not forget that conversation. Have it again year 7, have it again year 8, have it again year 9, 11, 13, universities more.
That's a really good point, and it's so important, because at different ages, I mean, everyone has their own circle of friends and their own family and their own interactions with bosses and colleagues and whatever, but at every age
it needs to be addressed again.
You need to be mentally equipped and prepared to deal with it if it happens, but also for boys to hear their fellow students' stories and stuff, to realize that you can be well, I mean, it's so stupid to actually say it, but you can be abused at any age, at any place, by anyone, so school, work,
and it's not written on your face. I think that's what people have to realize. They think that if it happened to someone, they think there's just one way to recover from it, and there's also that it will be written on the face, like the victim will be very, that you will see it, but They have to realize
Cope.
that
People learn to cope with trauma.
cope, and they also just have to learn that yes, you're fine with who you're talking. You think you know her so well, even like between us, I guess we think we know each other so well. Because even between women, it's not a conversation that we have with each other because we know that it's triggering, and I feel like we're also scared because maybe sometimes we um erase it from our brains, and hearing it, you're like, oh yeah, maybe it did happen, but I didn't realize, and you didn't even realize that you erased it from your brain. But I feel like it's just very conversation, and that people should be aware that mostly, like you said, happened to 97% of women. So you have more chance that your friend has been through that she has not. And I think that's something that people need to take into consideration. And it's really about listening, educating yourself, and also about, if I had to say something to the government, it's like take it more seriously, because when something happened, then they're like, and that's it, like nothing more. And you, well, that's already a lot. That's not normal that this has to be normalized. Like something like, oh, I'm lucky that this just happened. Well, it's already very bad. And I feel like, yeah, government has to punish more for, and no matter if the victim is a boy or girl or non-gendered, it has to be really like people need to listen, government has to listen and take more action for all of it, because it's something that people know they can get away with. Sadly, they know that they can do something, and where's the proof? Where's the proof? And then you're like,
On that
well,
government point about punishment, I saw a post, just real quick, I saw a post on Instagram less than an hour ago saying that apparently there is now a 10-year sentence for defacing or vandalizing a political statue in London, but there's only a 3-year sentence for sexual abuse towards a woman.
Me and Charlotte seen that last night.
Perspective-wise, as a blanket, this is not what this video is about, but as a blanket, the government have some serious reevaluating and redistributing the sentences and crimes. You need to sort that shit out. We've hit an hour now, and I just want to do that WhatsApp thing soon. I think I think we should start the video with it because it's not a long thing, and it's quite poignant. So
I have to say, on my phone, it's kind of difficult to do because I speak French with my relative, and we don't, like, for when we don't just say home safe, it's a whole sentence, but then it's words I use in other sentences too.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
I don't really, you know what I mean? But
So
I found some
if I
things.
ask everyone now just to type in the words home safe into their WhatsApp or their text or messenger or whatever you use the most, I get 118 results.
Right, so I only keep 2 chats open. I delete all the rest of mine. I go through my phone all the time.
Sarah, you know what I'm trying to do, just get to the point.
No, but yeah, but say I do it every Sunday.
Yeah.
It's now a Tuesday, and there's already 4 there, 5 there, and I delete my chats on a Sunday.
And then, Sarah, if you write in French what you would say to your French friends or family, how many results do you get for that?
So I would say I have this, but this is just on WhatsApp, and so yeah, that I don't really use. But let me see.
Okay, well that didn't work as well as I thought it would.
But I think it's interesting to see, like, say, the context in which that is said. So for me, all of them are, has she got home safe? Have you got home safe? There's none in there, did he get home safe? Which is quite interesting. And like, one of mine is, he asked if I got home safe. Like, safe journey home from a boy. Like, I think that's quite interesting. I don't know, like,
on WhatsApp, I've got quite a few, but they're all from my dad asking me if I'm home safe, which is interesting because it is, you expect your dad to kind of make sure you're home safe, but it's actually shocking on how many times he's actually said it to me.
Yeah, but kind of you also take it for granted. Like, people are like, "Oh, text when you're home," you know, and I get home, I forget. But it's like, no, Frannie, like one time that could be the time that you don't reply, I definitely know since this has all happened, I've updated a hell of a lot more settings and like privacy things and about texting 999. I've done them all because
locations.
like,
I feel like it's important to say in this video too, for people that have an iPhone, if the little button here, if you press it 5 times really quickly, it calls the emergency. If you have a problem, you don't have time to put the number in. So I think you have to put it on in your settings, but normally if you didn't put it off, it should be on. But that's something I think is very interesting to know for everyone.
And it calls your emergency contacts and tells you where you are, I believe.
Yeah.
I also
my emergency contacts to my mum, my dad, my brother, and my sister, because before it was no one. And I thought, Frannie, what would happen?
I also want to say there's this app which it's good for sort of like ambulances and police and whatever, fire people, whatever, any emergency. It's called What 3 Words, and I'm not going to show you my screen just for the simple fact that it will literally show you my actual location, but it divides basically the world into like 1 square meter, I think it is, or 3 square meters, and names that square, and every square has its own 3 words. So you can go on the app and you can just say those 3 words pretty much, and even if you just ring them and you can't actually talk, just say those 3 words and they will know exactly where you are. So that's also something
anything else that we wanted to speak about? I will definitely add all the extra information about the iPhone. I'll see if there's anything similar for Android phones, because I know that I don't have that feature and I've got a Huawei phone, but I might have the ability to have that feature. I just don't know it yet. So I will do my research and put it on the screen. Is there anything else that we want to touch on? Because
I think it's been a very good discussion, and I just hope that discussions like this are continuing in lots of different pockets of the world. Hopefully, like we said, moving on for generations below us to have successful lives.
I agree. Well, thank you girls for coming on, and it's a shame we had to say goodbye to Charlotte, but yeah, thank you girls. I mean, it's a tough conversation to have, but I'm glad that we're having it, and I hope that anyone watching feels like they want to also make a change and make a difference, like the rest of us.
And as per usual, for anyone that's watching, if you want to reach out to any one of us individually or ask us questions, all of our social medias will be down below.
Yeah.
And all of the links and references that we've made to anything, the video that we watched, I'll put the link down below as well, so you can go check that out if you fancy. Please go support our channel, go check out the other videos. This is the first time we've done a video speaking about an actual singular event.
Yeah.
But we normally talk about very broad subjects that cover everything that we are affected by. So yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.